Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week, the one show where you don't have to worry about judging anything because we do it all for you. Alex Phillips is here, Russell Quirk is here, Rebecca Twomey is here, and Rafe Heydel-Mankoo is also here. So we might as well kick things off with one of our old favourites, Alex, Mr. Sadiq Khan.
The old Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out if it's been a, fine time to leave me loose here with 5,000 kids and a crap in the field, then you're not going to get social housing because it's going to go to these prisoners instead who have just been released way before their time, who frankly just want to go on the rob and end up back in prison because they weren't ready to be released.
They didn't expect to be released, did they?
No, there were people like celebrating with champagne and then literally nicking stuff or, assaulting someone and going straight back in.
Right. It's like a day out for them.
It is like a day out.
But the reason for this, there's the champagne. I think that was somewhere in Nottingham, I think, outside of a prison. But one of the reasons we're nominating Sadiq Khan is that he actually issued a statement, incredibly, to say that people coming out of prison on early release should be given priority for social housing in London, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. So if you're a prisoner, if you broke into the country illegally, basically if you're a crimo, you get a house.
Right.
If you're just, hard done by and your partner's left you and you've got 3 hungry mouths to feed, sorry. Find a sofa, love.
It is absolutely incredible.
You see the headline and you think it's the sort of thing that you'd see in Private Eye,
a
parody. You know, politician says, despite there being 1.2 million people on the housing waiting list, let's, commit a crime, go inside, get released really early, straight into a council house. Makes perfect sense.
I'm starting to wonder whether these politicians are living in some kind of parallel universe, because Keir Starmer says things, there's somebody coming out, Keir Starmer says things which are patently untrue, and yet he says them with such conviction that you think, well, he must believe that. Sadiq Khan's the same. This is a guy who hasn't met any of his targets for building housing in London ever since he's been in charge of the city, which is about, 7 or 8 years.
He's got a backup plan for homeless people.
Has he?
Yeah, he does. And his backup plan for homeless people is basically to carpet all of Oxford Street, which right now is a thoroughfare for cars going from one side of London to the other, in some sort of, AstroTurf, so people can put tents on it.
Oh, hang on, this is an artist's impression of what Oxford Street would look like.
You know what's going to happen.
What is
That's
wrong
just going to
with
become like a Roma Disneyland,
right.
isn't it?
No, it's also been termed already in the media a mugger's paradise.
Yeah.
Because there'll be no kind of vehicular traffic to kind of regulate everything. The police, of course, won't be able to drive through it.
You know the tent city's going to appear there.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course, because they're only down the road. They're in the middle of Park Lane,
But back to the kind of whole prisoners thing, it does seem that this government is hell-bent on putting prisoners before pensioners, doesn't it?
It does.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it's surprising to me that only one person so far that we know of who was released early has actually committed a crime. I'm sure there's many, many more.
But
this one particular guy managed to do it within, I think, half an hour of being released at Sittingbourne Station, where he molested a woman who wasn't expected to be molested. Literally, it's like the criminals have taken over the country, haven't they?
But wasn't part of the justification is to stop criminals reoffending so that they'd house them?
Yeah.
But what about knife crime? Isn't that the key issue in London? And how is putting prisoners before everyone else?
Right.
Well,
how is that stopping knife crime?
If you walk about with a zombie knife or a sort of massive machete, you just take it to the police station.
They'll give you 10 quid.
Great,
What about that guy? Who was that guy who took in something like £35,000 worth of knives?
Yeah, but this was a knife wholesaler that gave them up.
But he gave up 35,000 knives
and got paid.
And claimed £10 for every one, 350,000 quid.
Yeah.
I think Labour's election slogan should be, we free muggers and we mug pensioners.
Yeah, exactly right. They really do. And some of the stuff that we saw in the last couple of weeks has been quite ridiculous, hasn't it?
But it's a question of this kind of sixth form politics ideology of the Labour Party being put into place as policy, but without any regard for the consequences at all.
Yeah.
No,
Just
exactly.
have to look at any Democrat state in America and they've become a hellhole.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've just got meth-addicted zombies walking the streets. You've got,
exactly. And you've got people like Elon Musk and others literally moving their entire businesses and, the tax they pay on all their employees from California to Texas, for instance. It's happening in
and that's already happened once before in America when people decided that back in the sort of late 70s that crime was so bad that they all moved out of the inner city.
But
so
it will
the
also
city
happen
ended
here.
up being hollowed out and only had poor people living there, basically.
Yeah, but it will happen here. From an economics point of view, I know we're not necessarily talking about that.
Happening.
It'll happen in terms of people going to other places like Dublin where corporation tax is lower and so on.
We're one of the top 3 countries in the world for millionaires leaving the country as it stands
Absolutely.
already.
Let's talk about your first nomination, Russell. A man who has previously won Plank of the Week.
And
so he may well win it this week.
Well, he might win it every week. Up till Christmas, I suspect. Yeah, so this is David.
Yes.
Lammy.
Or as I like to call him, comical Lammy.
Comical Lammy, yeah. And I'm kind of spoilt for choice, really, in terms of the reason behind my nomination.
Yes.
It could be because he thinks that climate change is more of a problem than terrorism. Try telling that to 7/7, 9/11 victims.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's the fact that he rocked up to Washington with Keir Starmer to meet the President of the United States wearing trainers.
Trainers with a suit.
That's the second reason.
I think we've got a picture of that. There he is.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, and I don't know why I'm trying to be fair.
You're going to defend him, Mike?
When I saw a picture of him in the White House, he had taken the trainers off and replaced them with proper shoes.
Oh, so he didn't have socks on.
But I just think if you look closely at these trainers, you know, you don't wear trainers with a suit. You just don't.
But, and the excuse has been apparently, well, he's just getting off a plane. Well, yeah, but he knows
no,
he's
he's
going to
not.
be photographed.
He's getting onto a plane.
Oh, yeah, there you go. But he's going to be photographed by the world's press. It's not a good look.
What's he got, gout or something?
I don't know.
Doubt, perhaps.
Yeah. But the real reason, of course, is his so-called pretend fake defence of Keir Starmer and Lady Starmer, insofar as why they have taken tens of thousands of pounds from Wahid Ali and goodness knows whoever else for their wardrobes. His defence on the Sunday shows last week or the weekend just gone was that, well, you know, the state really should be paying for his and his wife's clothes. Why? Because they're photographed all the time and the state should pay for that. Well, A, no, and B, the comparison he used was that the President of the United States and the First Lady get taxpayer-funded clothes. Guess what? No, they don't.
No.
It's not true.
He got it completely wrong.
Yes.
So either he told a deliberate lie when he went on all of the news programmes on Sunday morning, or he just doesn't know. Let's have a look at the clip.
I also recognise that in our country, there isn't a budget for the Prime Minister's clothes. So it is the case that successive leaders of the opposition wanting to represent the country on an international stage and Prime Ministers have used donors to fund that budget. That is the truth of it.
I mean, I had a call from somebody this week who said, yeah, of course he's got a budget that he's given by the state to buy clothes. It's called his salary, right? Because, you know, last year, and I found this out only just the other day, he says that he made £404,000.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what he declared.
That's what he declared as his income.
Yeah.
He paid £99,000 in tax, which by my reckoning makes him a lower tax...
25%?
25% lower rate taxpayer, which I'd like to know whether I can ask my accountant if I can do that.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to pay 25% rather than the 40%, or sometimes the 45% that they make everybody else pay.
Yeah.
Similarly, the wife, who's now becoming fast known to me as the new Meghan Markle, because I think she is. I think she's got similar tastes. She's got similar kind of self-importance about her. She seems to think that because she's married to the bloke who's the Prime Minister, that she should somehow get all sorts of grace and favour, you know, things that nobody else should get.
Absolutely, that definitely seems to be the case. But here's also the disregard that the Starmers have for the public and the taxpayer.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is all going on at the same time as they're nicking £300 winter fuel allowance back from 10 million pensioners.
Yeah.
Is the fact that apparently Lady Starmer, as she is now, went along to Fashion Week, London Fashion Week this week, wearing an outfit that was donated to her not 3 days after this whole furor, this whole kind of argument has blown up. Now, you would think that she'd have a little bit more taste, a bit more decorum, a bit more respect for the taxpayer than sitting there 3 days after the headlines are broken saying, yeah, Wahid Ali bought me this.
Can you imagine? No, but can you imagine?
Taylor Swift tickets as well.
Can you imagine the conversation in the meeting in Downing Street where they go, look, we're taking a lot of flack here. What's the solution? I know. Why don't you go to London Fashion Week, sit in the front row, wear a really expensive dress that somebody's loaned you, because it was loaned to her for the event, right? Because that happens quite a lot in the world of celebrity, because that will get everybody off the scent. Well, it won't, will it?
But what could have been done is it's happened, right? Damage limitation. How about, well, we're putting, British fashion brands on a global scale. Let's talk about this.
Right.
Let's promote, our brilliant enterprise we've got. That was such an opportunity there.
Yes.
And it's this justification peddling backwards. Oh, we've done nothing wrong.
You sound like a PR.
Well, we do what we do. We'll
they should hire you. No, they should hire you.
Well, I'm looking for a job, so
the optics are awful.
Rebecca, you put your finger on it, though, because it's true. You would think that somebody inside of the business of Downing Street would say, here's how we fix this. But instead, they seem to be absolutely hell-bent on just kind of sticking two fingers up to everybody and going, the hell with you, the hell with the taxpayers, we're entitled to this. It now turns out, as I didn't know until just today, that Keir Starmer has claimed the most freebies of any MP.
100 grand,
more than that, since 2019.
Well,
right?
And this is tickets, Arsenal, Taylor Swift.
All of the stuff he's claimed since. No, I'm talking about before he was Prime Minister. This is like 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years. He is the highest claiming MP in Parliament, right?
Ever.
Ever. Well, no, just since 2019. And this guy seems to think that he's entitled to all kinds of freebies. And why is he not paying tax? You know, when I'm a self-employed individual, and if I get freebies or if I get, you know, a free travel, a free holiday, if you get a company car, anything you get, you pay tax on. Is he paying tax on it?
Can I also just remind us of what happened a few years ago with Boris Johnson and his wallpaper saga, which was donated, or the money for which was donated. He spent 70-odd grand of wallpaper to redecorate Downing Street. And there was an absolute uproar. And it was very, very prominent. Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, etc. Absolutely slating Boris Johnson for that and for the declaration and the fact that a donor's involved. Now it's literally turned full circle. Starmer, actually, this week apparently has doubled down and said he hasn't said that he won't stop
he's going to continue
taking donations.
To take freebies.
But that's the key issue here, because he's not a politician. This is a man who is still a prosecutor in his mind. He's still head of the Crown Prosecution Service. And he's been so unforgiving to anybody else when they've made some mistake or they've gone down this path. He's had no time for any sort of compassion or empathy at all. And now, of course, he expects that to be shown towards him. That's why this all stinks. You know, when we had, Johnson and Brown in office, their wives actually rented their outfits. You know, that's how they got around it. She's not the first person ever to become the new First Lady. This terrible term that's being
be
used
clear, Lammy's
now.
gone further, and now he thinks genuinely that the taxpayer should pay more money, not donors, the taxpayer should pay for Keir and Lady Starmer's clothes.
But no one cares what she wears.
Let's have a look at David Lammy, though, back in his hometown of Tottenham, North London. You might remember this particular clip.
If it feels like neighbourhood policing has vanished, it's not around you. We haven't seen a police while I've been here, and I've been here for a little while now.
Only David Lammy could be that thick.
I reckon he just wants that man to donate him some new Ian Collins-style glasses.
Yeah, maybe.
Getting some nice shoes to replace his trainers.
Well, Keir's got 6 pairs of glasses from Lord Ali. Maybe he could just give one.
He doesn't need glasses. He's never worn glasses before.
Who, Starmer?
Yeah.
Well,
if they just sort of popped up halfway through the campaign trail,
maybe he thinks,
oh, look, he's got glasses
he thinks it makes it look intelligent. Absolutely unbelievable.
You're trying to say he's got no vision, aren't you?
It makes him look less like Rudolf Hess.
We've got such a bleak 5 years ahead with Labour. I think we need Lammy there throughout it for some comic relief, you know? Just to keep us sane.
Comical Lammy, as we call him. Rebecca, you've got the police, but not just any old police.
Oh, no, this is Gwent Police.
Gwent Police. Look, Huw.
Really careful here not to make too many puns about policemen's helmets and their equipment, OK? But wait for it.
OK.
So, Gwent Police...
Thanks for the warning.
That's a trigger warning.
OK.
So, Gwent Police have done a small survey about, you know, how their police officers are doing and how they feel about things.
How they feel about things?
Well, you know, we're in the touchy-feely world now. We need to know how they feel.
Unbelievable.
But how certain parts of them might feel.
Right.
Because the unisex trousers, which I didn't know were a thing before this, the unisex trousers, which are part of their uniform, have been crushing testicles and giving people infections because they are not...
I'm glad you said people there, because obviously some people have testicles and some people don't. Doesn't make you a man just because you've got testicles.
This is too much for me. This is too much. They're just unisex trousers. And I don't know who came up with this brilliant idea to create unisex trousers, whatever they are, but they're causing so many problems. It's effectively a health hazard.
So they're actually crushing balls?
They are crushing balls, but the wrong kind of balls. They're crushing their own balls, which isn't necessarily a good thing when they should really be catching criminals.
Well, they can't run very fast if the balls are crushed.
This is the problem.
Trousers.
This is the problem.
Do we think this is what's been the problem all along with our police?
Yeah.
That's
why they can't catch any criminals.
When you see them like waddling along.
This is why the detection rate is only 2% in Britain.
Also, it's not just that they're crushing balls; they're also causing thrush as well.
Yeah, they're causing
to some
infections.
other people who may or may not have a cervix.
But both people can have that infection.
Can you?
Yes.
And men can have thrush.
Yes.
Can they?
I've
never had it.
They can carry it and pass it on and lots of things.
Right.
But yes. But the uniform is causing...
Always educational here.
You're welcome.
You can get a cream for that, apparently.
Does that come with the trousers?
Yeah.
But basically, they're claiming, the police are claiming that it wasn't a woke move. It was an old-fashioned cost-saving measure.
Is it only Gwent Police that have got unisex trousers, or do you think the Metropolitan Police have got them as well?
No, I'm not aware that they have them. I'm only aware that...
So when you say unisex trousers, do we mean the new term would be non-binary trousers, wouldn't it?
A non-binary pair of trousers.
Woke trousers. Going into Marks and Spencer and saying, excuse me, can I have some non-binary trousers?
Well, no, it'd be like going into Marks and Spencer. There's no men and women section anymore.
No.
There's just a section.
Just a section. And you should all be sectioned when you go in there.
Out of every item of clothing that is unisex, for example, like a jacket, a top, shoes, gloves, fair enough.
They can't be, though. Surely not.
The
but a jacket can't be unisex, can it?
Well, I don't know. Like, I'm not a fashion designer. I think a jumper can be.
Are you trying to say that we're not all the same?
Well, I think there's a thing around this area where when you wear trousers, there might need to be, room to accommodate hips or something else.
Or something else.
And
genitalia.
Yes, that kind of thing. But the thing is,
testicles.
Perhaps just,
I'm just more concerned that this is why Britain's police can't run after criminals anymore.
Yeah.
It's because they've literally been got by the bollocks.
Well, look,
quite literally, yeah.
I've got an idea. Why don't we let the women police wear a skirt, right? And the male police could wear male trousers,
no, that's too
which have got room for their testicles.
Why don't we just get on the blower to that ASOS ghoul with his Downing Street pass and ask him to donate some?
Look, I've been calling on the police to grow a pair for years, so I'm just pleased to find out they actually do have a pair.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? God bless the Welsh. I think that may be the funniest one we've had for a while. Rafe, you've got, bizarrely, I'm slightly confused by this, the Labour Party as a nomination. Now, that's quite a big area. So,
well, specifically, it's their new move to actually ban all junk food, but they have a very loose definition of it, or junk food advertising, I should say.
Yes.
So it's going to be a goodbye to Mr. Kipling's exceedingly good cakes.
Oh, dear.
No more singing just one cornetto any longer. And they're going to be a complete ban on online advertising, a ban on all television advertising before 9 p.m.
Yes.
This is despite the last government abandoning that in order to help poor people during this cost of living crisis. None of that consideration from Labour, fresh from attacking poor pensioners about any of this. But, of course, the problem there is that it's actually going to affect small businesses because, of course, lots of small businesses advertise on the internet. And this ban doesn't just include things like, hot dogs and burgers. It applies to olive oil, croissants, crumpets,
they seem to
yogurts,
on
everything. Just kale and broccoli, apparently, were the only thing you can be left
but
to
also,
advertise.
I mean, apparently the aim of this is to stop young people from being attracted to eating fast food. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody under the age of about 25 who watches TV.
Yeah, to be
they don't
influenced by the
bother.
adverts anyway.
Nobody's watching television adverts before 9 o'clock or after 9 o'clock. They're just not watching TV at all, as we saw just the other week. BBC, for example, and ITV as kind of influencers on people watching the news, has gone down to less than 50%.
But anyone, as per your nomination just now, Sadiq Khan, he banned anything sugar-related from being advertised on the London Tube network about 3 or 4 years ago, I think.
And yet,
and I bet
it was candy stores.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But I bet that there isn't evidence to show that the consumption by Londoners of bad food, sugary foods, and so on has come down.
1% decline. University of Sheffield.
I
But actually, the Sadiq Khan example is a very good one of the absurd consequences of this. So there was a theatre play from the West End, about a wedding party, and they had to pull their ads from TfL because they had a wedding cake on it.
That's right, I remember
Ed
that.
Gamble, the comedian, had to have his Hot Diggity Dog campaign posters for his comedy tour taken down because there was a hot dog which he had to replace with a cucumber, which made no sense.
And as you might remember, that made it onto Plank of the Week, of course.
What they did do is they replaced...
It's now a historical kind of document, Plank of the Week. Just look back at how crazy...
Wikipedia.
Yeah, just look how crazy Britain got over the course of the last 4 years. Just watch Plank of the Week from the beginning.
Yeah.
But they actually did find a way to prevent people's appetites being stimulated on the tube by replacing all the adverts with non-binary Hulk Hogan women with hairy armpits advertising various forms of razor blades.
Well, and
if anything's going to put you off your lunch,
That's a good point, actually. What happened to all this body positivity, right? We were told that big is beautiful, that fat is great.
Right.
We had these gorgons advertising for Calvin Klein models, had Lizzo stomping around on the stage, as underwear.
Ads,
and apparently now that this is all apparently forgotten about. Now it's bad again.
Tesco's apparently are working on a plan, and this is only again just announced this week. For those people who have got a Tesco Club card, you'll be able to access an app which will follow you around as you go shopping and will tell you when you've got too much in your trolley, which is not good for you. So, if you pick some sour cream off the shelf over there, and then you go to get some cheese, it will say, no, you don't want to do that.
Too much dairy.
That's too much dairy, too many carbs. Maybe you get some low-fat sour cream or some creme fraiche. Can you imagine this bloody thing talking to you and saying, do you really want those sausages? I don't think that's such a good idea. Ridiculous.
But here's an idea. Maybe with, if we charged more VAT on sugary snacks, maybe if Tesco charged more for the bad stuff and use that money to subsidise the healthy stuff.
Because they won't. They'll introduce the tax. Thanks for tipping them off and telling them, by the way. They'll take the tax, but they won't spend it on good things.
If
they'll spend it on...
childhood
on Keir Starmer's wardrobe.
Diet is key. Blame everyone else. It's such a cheap move to say, look what we're doing, we're banning advertising. How about actually getting those fresh fruit and vegetables and good quality protein into the mouths of children and families?
What, you mean force feed them grapes? let them eat grapes.
It's so expensive now to buy proper food.
It's not really.
It really is. No,
It's actually not.
I
It's because
disagree with you.
parents, many parents, particularly of a certain demographic, you know, we can say kind of poorer families, are also patently lazy. And what they want to do is go out and get a bag of chips for their kids, stick something in the microwave for their kids, because they can't be asked
I think
to make
there's a
something
lot
for
of
their
pressure on
kids.
families, and I don't want to sort of disagree with you too much on this one, but I think what could be a better use of this is educating people on cooking proper, quick meals. If you've got five kids, you're working...
Good, proper families teach their kids how to eat and cook properly. That's what they do.
Yeah.
I know this because I've got two families. I had an older lot and a younger lot, and they all know how to cook and they all know how to eat properly, and they're all pretty healthy. I consider that to be part of my duty as a parent.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're a parent, you're not doing that, then the hell with you. I'm not giving you money to subsidise you so that you can do it better.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
You know, that's my view. Anyway, let's have a look, because we got this. The first ever fast food delivery in 1963.
Yes, would you please send me 2 chicken suppers, 3 fish suppers, and a carton of peas?
2 chicken and chips, 3 fish and chips, and 1 carton of hot peas.
We take the order and we send it off. Within 15 to 20 minutes, it's on their table waiting for them to eat it.
So your car's always sitting at
The
ready?
car's at the door there with the engine ticking over. As good as Z cars any day, I'll tell you that. And as soon as that order leaves this counter onto the car, it's away and there's no time lost.
So that was the beginning of Just Eat, you see.
Basically, I was going to say, that's where delivery got their
I must say,
inspiration
standards
from.
have dropped massively because I never see anybody wearing suits now in the local fish and chip shop.
Or delivering to you.
They should be wearing suits.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that. That's brilliant. Right, coming up, we're going to be talking about a non-binary dog, believe it or not. We're also going to talk about Ben and Jerry's once again and the criminal justice system. What's going on? It's absolutely ridiculous. This is Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. I'm Mike Graham, and we've got the panel going here. We've got some great nominations already, but I'm now going to talk to you about what can only be described as a gender-fluid dachshund, right? I thought I'd seen it all, I thought I'd heard it all until I saw this story, and I can only sort of elaborate on it by explaining to you how it starts. It's almost like a once upon a time. Once upon a time, in Cambridgeshire County Council, there were some people there who didn't get along with each other very well, and one of them had a dog, and the dog, whose name I think is Pablo, and there he is, there's Pablo the dog, and look at the bloke that owns him. Pablo apparently liked to take part in lots of pride rallies and used to go on marches and things like that, and it was declared that Pablo was gender fluid, and therefore, you know, wasn't sure whether he was a woman or a man. We're not sure whether Pablo...
Mike, when you say he likes to, like we know that it's him that wants to as the dog rather than
Yes.
the owner forcing him to do so.
Yeah, nobody's forcing the dog to do it.
He
No,
wants
the dog very much...
He knows they're on and he jumps up every morning when
loves
there's a
it,
pride
yeah.
march on. He's at the door scurrying.
He's going,
ready to go.
because the great thing about Pride now is it goes all year round.
Can they smell it? Can they smell the pride march?
I think they can smell it. Yeah, I don't know how.
You find a gender-neutral lamppost to go to.
Anyway, this all ended up, believe it or not, in an employment tribunal, right? Hard to believe, I know. But apparently it turns out that at this employment tribunal, a woman called Elizabeth Pitt was reported to the managers at Cambridgeshire County Council because she made allegedly transphobic remarks about Pablo, the gender-fluid
about
dog.
the dog.
Yes. And it was during a video meeting with the council's LGBTQIA+ group. And you wonder why they're not emptying the bins.
Shouldn't there be a D in there somewhere?
There might be, yeah. I mean, I think they should just take all the letters of the alphabet now, just jumble them all up and put a plus at the end and go, that's it. Now, Elizabeth Pitt doesn't come cheap either, right? Because she is a lesbian social worker. So she apparently had made some suggestions that the dachshund known as Pablo was not as other dogs, right? And apparently one of the things that she objected to was that the dachshund had put a dress on to promote debate. I'm thinking to myself, what is going on in Cambridgeshire Council?
Anything on. Someone put it
There's
on the
a dog
dachshund.
walking around dressed as a drag queen called Pablo, right? There's a woman who's a lesbian calling it something else, and it's now ended up in an employment tribunal. All to huge cost to the taxpayer,
This
right?
isn't a new series of Little Britain, Mike.
I don't know. I mean, when I started reading this story, I was thinking sort of further into the mire. Council bosses banned Ms. Pitt from contacting members of the LGBTQI+, whatever it is, a group, and she wasn't allowed to attend any meetings. The local authority then said that she was going to have her employment terminated. The social worker, the lesbian social worker, then sued them for discrimination and harassment over her gender-critical views. And guess how it turned out? It means that she's now been in receipt of £63,000 compensation from Cambridgeshire Council, which basically is taxpayers' money, because of this gender-fluid bloody dog.
All I can say is you wouldn't get this in Springfield, Ohio. The dog would be eaten.
Very true. By some Haitians. Yeah. Right. Get the barbecue out. Right. Over to you, Alex. Ben & Jerry's.
Yes, they're talking about stateside. Ben & Jerry's never want to miss an advertising opportunity, some sort of woke corporate, let's try and promote whatever it is
They're
you want
awful,
to promote.
aren't they?
They're just dreadful.
Yeah.
So they've come out of a special edition Kamala Harris ice cream
Oh, yeah.
called Coconut Jubilee.
And there it is.
Now, first of all,
Now,
I
you
thought
think that was a
coconut's
joke, wouldn't
supposed
you?
to be like a racial slur.
It's an insult.
Isn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
And then Jubilee is like an anniversary of I don't know how many years. She's not anything yet.
No.
What's the anniversary? What is her Jubilee? What is all of that?
Yeah, I know. And as you say, coconut is intended to be an insult to a black person who's white on the inside, isn't it?
Right. The only thing I'm happy about is it won't be advertised on the London Underground.
Well, Sadiq Khan's almost bound to ban it. I mean, Ben & Jerry's have seemingly forgotten a long time ago that they're actually an ice cream company. And one of the things that I used to find very funny about them was that they were actually sued by a lot of the employees that they employed, because they employ a lot of migrant workers. Their headquarters are in Vermont. They're also owned by Unilever, right, which sells, I believe, skin whitening products to people in India. Right?
Wow.
So, I mean, they're not particularly woke. They're not as woke as they'd like to think they are.
Yeah, yeah. But the Ben & Jerry founders are. I mean, they've been criticised roundly by many, many people over the years for being woke and propagandists. I wonder if they've introduced a Trump ice cream, have they? I bet they haven't.
No.
No. There's a surprise.
Yeah.
It was all
Well,
just
they could have
What would it
Trump's
be?
orange and bitter chocolate.
Well, there's a marketing opportunity, but of course they haven't. They say that they've actually introduced this in order to make people think about voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Or just voting in general. But I mean, it's a $100 billion company. If they cared that much about people voting, surely they'd put that money somewhere else rather than trying to sell weird ice cream.
Isn't that interfering in an election? I mean, if you did that in some countries on the basis that you're not showing balance by providing an ice cream for both
as Rafe
candidates,
says, they should have a
it's
Trump
pushing.
flavour, shouldn't
Yeah,
they?
no, exactly.
If they had both, that would be fine.
Yeah,
But they don't.
So they're interfering.
Now, some of you might remember this, but some of you might not. But Kevin O'Sullivan and I actually did a bit of a spoof Ben & Jerry's advert.
I remember this.
Some years ago. Have a look.
Introducing Mike and Kevin's ice cream for snowflakes. Indulge in our deliciously sanctimonious flavors, such as Extinction Raspberryan, Cancel Culture and Cream, Cookie Double Warming, Non-Bineberry, Woca-Cola, Ginger Nut, and Vanilla. All made from our organic gender fluid. Mike and Kevin's ice cream for snowflakes.
Those are all genuinely brilliant names.
They are.
Aren't they?
They are fantastic. I mean, we did that a few years back, but it hasn't really changed. Right, Russell, over to you. The criminal justice system.
Yeah, so news this week relating to Huw Edwards, who got off scot-free.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Got off on a lot of things, not just got off of jail, frankly.
Got off on things you shouldn't be getting off on.
So, and there's been lots of noise around why, and blaming Westminster magistrates, which I have to say, it doesn't seem like it's entirely their fault on the basis of what we call sentencing guidelines. So the sentencing guidelines, if you're of a particular paedophilic nature, like Huw Edwards is now proven to be, is that if you receive and get off on images of child abuse, it seems, the sentence in terms of custodial sentence starts at 12 months, but then comes back from that on the basis of pleading guilty, showing remorse, and so on, which is why Huw Edwards basically got off, got 6 months suspended for 2 years. So there's been lots and lots of criticism about this, understandably so, in the media over the last few days. And clearly, it's not the magistrates, it's the sentencing guidelines that need to change. When you've got certain people that have been incarcerated for 20 months here, 22 months there, for shouting at police dogs, for saying things that were wrong and racist, admittedly, on social media, but on the basis that they were offensive. But we've effectively got a sentencing system that says if you're a paedophile, you get off. but if you say nasty things on Facebook, shout at police dogs, ask the police, for instance, if they still think that they're English, which was another charge that ended up in a custodial sentence, that those crimes are more serious than the crimes that Huw Edwards has committed. That is preposterous.
It's preposterous, but if you want a little bit of a factoid, if you look at how many people are charged with making indecent, Category A images every month, and when you look at how many paedophiles they're estimated to be in Britain, it's around 850,000 a year.
And do you think there might be
not
no
enough
deterrent?
prisons. There's no deterrent. But I mean, seriously, the rate of paedophilia is really high. You wouldn't be able to put them all in prison.
Yeah, but as Russell says, if you actually feared that you would be caught and you would go to jail, I would imagine you would wipe out 50% of those people.
You would, because
say,
the person
I'm not actually going to risk it.
that sent those images to Huw Edwards also got a suspended
I
sentence.
know.
So clearly, I mean, the punishment...
Well, we know that only 1/5, because the Sun did it this week, the day after the Huw Edwards verdict came down, only 1/5 of people who commit paedophile offences goes to jail.
So the sentencing guidelines are too lax.
all wrong, isn't it?
There is no deterrent there, and that needs to change, which
no
is why I'm
consequence.
nominating it.
There's no consequence, and it looks as if you're, effectively, you can just feed the market.
Yeah.
If there's no consequence to you consuming, these horrific images, how do you even sometimes in your own mind know it's wrong?
But surely we understand that if those people consume those images, the demand necessitates that the act of child abuse happens to fulfil that demand.
Exactly.
So how is someone like Huw Edwards and the person that sent those images any different from the person disgustingly that has been involved in that act?
No.
They're the same. And they should all be in prison for a long, long time. And look, wherever they have to go to prison, under what circumstances, whether they go to Estonia, which of course has been muted, or whatever.
Well, that came and went, didn't it?
Who cares, right? These people are dangerous. They're dangerous not just to society, but to the most vulnerable in society, our children, 7-year-old kids, for God's sake.
I know.
This is wrong.
Shocking. One of the more shocking aspects of the story, of course, as well, was that leading up to his final, sentencing and even his guilty plea, people were defending Huw Edwards up and down the BBC. His former colleagues who said they knew him very well, as far as they went. John Sopel said, well, he might have a very complicated life, but, he's not a criminal. Andrew Marr did the same thing. So many of them. Let's have a look at how the BBC actually covered this story.
Emotional as the court heard about his mental health problems, his suicide risk, and an upbringing where his failure to get into Oxford left him feeling like an outsider at the BBC.
Left him feeling like an outsider
So he didn't get into
at the
Oxford University, so he
BBC.
became a pedo?
Yes. Left him feeling like an outsider at the BBC, where he was the highest paid person on BBC television.
Yeah.
Right? Only, I think, outstripped by Zoe Ball on Radio 2.
And Lineker.
And Gary Lineker.
Yeah.
But he was third highest paid person, the most highly paid person in the news business in the BBC.
And it wasn't just the BBC.
Well, a load of old cobblers.
I happened to have Sky on, just for balance, watching the actual sentencing coverage.
Right.
And those journalists were making almost a pseudo-defence in exactly the same way. They were talking about how he's vulnerable, how he might be a suicide risk, how he might get hurt in prison. Too bad, and so on. And it was almost this mitigation on behalf of, maybe because he's a so-called, or was a national treasure, on the basis that should give him some kind of special dispensation. He's a criminal. He's a paedophile. End of.
And just look at the optics, right? You've got somebody who's escaped jail for having child abuse images, whereas other law-abiding people, like carers and pensioners, went to prison because they were outraged over children being murdered.
Yes.
And I think it's the optics of this. The legal system, I understand the sentencing guidelines need to change because, of course, people have to have confidence in the legal system and they have to think that people are being judged fairly and equitably.
Yes. That's
more important even than whether or not someone like him, gets a shorter or longer sentence. The people must be reassured that the law is on their side, and every single thing they've seen in recent months has said just the opposite.
Well, justice has to be seen to be done. That's one of the tenets of natural justice.
And also, one of the points of justice is to, as we've said earlier, to put off people who might think about committing that crime.
Yeah.
The locking up of the rioters and the keyboard warriors was supposed to be all about stopping the riots and making people frightened to actually take part in anything like that, which was going to end up with a jail sentence. And guess what? It worked. The riots stopped literally the next day.
Yeah.
They could do the same in every single aspect of life, whether it's knife crime, whether it's paedophiles, whether it's, robbers, muggers, rapists, lock them up, and then maybe people won't do so much of it.
What's the South American country? It escapes me.
I think it's El Salvador.
El Salvador, which is had the second highest murder rate in the world. new president comes in, builds more prisons, takes all of the murderers, because, of course, as ever, a lot of these crimes are committed just by a small percentage of people, took them all off the street, put them in prison. Guess what happened to the murder rate? They're now one of the lowest murder rates in the world. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? How you can incarcerate people, protect the public, and the crime goes down.
But they can make the argument for the rioters, right, and the far-right hooligans, but they can't make it for anything else. That's the bit that's really strange.
Exactly.
You know, they talk about wanting to protect women and girls and stop violence against women and girls. And what do? They let out a load of prisoners who are going to commit violence against women and girls. Huh? Sorry, I mean, it doesn't compute, does it? Anyway, coming up, Rebecca's going to be back with another bizarre story about the RAF. And, of course, Rafe will be here with a Lib Dem councillor who's suffering from PTSD. All coming up after this. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. It is, of course, the big weekend for judging what's going to be happening, and I'm going to be judging it very shortly. I'm not quite sure. I think Labour are going to win it every week in one way, shape or form. Rebecca, meanwhile, let's go to you for your next one. It's about an RAF airman.
Yes, it's about an RAF airman called Alex Henry.
Right.
And the question here is, what would you do to be famous and to get on reality TV? Would you risk your, self-worth? Would you risk becoming a meme? Well, we all probably have. But would you risk a prison sentence? Well, this
Probably
gentleman...
not.
Probably not.
That's
probably
Alex
not,
there.
Probably not wise to. Now, Alex here wanted to go on a reality show. So he asked his commanding officer last winter, could I have some time off?
So he's a serving officer in the RAF.
He's a serving airman, and he asked for time off. And they said, no, we don't want to give you that time off to go on a reality show. So he went anyway. He went AWOL, disappeared, filmed the show, and then came back and, he was praised because he came back and then he was immediately taken into military prison. But he was a model inmate.
Prison?
Yeah, military prison. Military prison. So this makes you think, well, why did you not just hand your notice in and asked to postpone to go on Channel 4's Married at First Sight?
Oh, so it's Married at First Sight.
It's Married at First Sight.
It's quite a popular show, right?
It is a popular show.
So it's not like you could have gone on it and nobody would have noticed.
Well, the thing is, it's mainstream, but it's not going to put him into the stratosphere of celebrities. It's in reality shows. All producers do this with contestants. They all think they're going to be the breakaway stars. It's called the doom chat in the industry, and they say to them, just so you know, this potentially could ruin your life.
Yes.
So they all have that doom.
And the premise of this show, I've never watched it, but I've heard people talking about it.
You Marry Stranger.
They used to like the Australian one, which apparently was very
brilliant
good.
in lockdown.
So basically, you go into this show, you meet somebody, or they set you up with somebody.
Yeah, they make you someone.
And you get married to them.
It's not legally binding, but effectively you do the wedding and you marry.
Right.
And then you live together as a married couple and go through all the different stages with other couples. So the other thing with this is that, there were accusations of, him being a domestic abuser. So that's also come out with this as well. So the whole thing.
He does sound a bit of a plank, this guy. Here's the here's the clip of Married at First Sight with Alex Henry.
I would make the perfect partner because I know how to keep a woman happy. I have my ways, promise. I'm tired of this fast lifestyle and going on holiday and having these short-term romances, and I'm ready to just be in something real.
Tired of going on holiday? I have to say, a man who's tired of going on holiday is tired of life.
The youth of today, they're so spoiled, aren't they?
I mean, and he wants to show that he knows how to make a woman happy, by going to prison, right? I mean, it's not a great start.
At least we help make him famous. I suspect more people will watch him on this show than watch him on the actual show, Married at First Sight.
Well, that's it. That's the joke in all of this, is that, like I said, he got the notoriety he wanted just for all the wrong reasons.
And so how did he get on? Do you get sort of eliminated on this show? Is that how it works?
No.
How do you win it, is what I'm
saying. You don't win it per se. It's just you get, if you stay in your couple, that's kind of the prize. Right. Love is the prize, Mike. I don't know if that's...
Or not, as the case may be.
Or not. Yeah. But if you don't just decide to stay in the... Right. It's called an experiment.
Yeah, but you don't have to stay married for long, presumably, just for the length of the show.
Yeah, and to get the Instagram deals and everything else that you need. But it does work, that show.
Surely it's about true love, isn't it? Or am I just,
Yeah, it's a very good idea. It's never going to catch on.
Not going to happen.
No.
I wonder what the percentages of people actually staying together a year later. Is it like zero?
I actually did a report this month on which reality show was most likely to find you love, and weirdly, Love Island and Married at First Sight came up very, very high.
Love Island?
I had a producer do all the stats and just looked at...
Love Island, superficial love at first sight, right?
Well, sometimes it works, I'm a romantic.
Well,
it's like yourself, Rebecca. Speak for yourself.
But it's like people that say, what's wrong with an arranged marriage? Because, I mean, it's got just as much chance of working as any other one. You know, if you get married because your parents think you should marry this guy over here or that woman over there, why wouldn't you? You know, I don't know. I'm not getting married again. That's all I know. Rafe, over to you.
Yes, so a Lib Dem councillor, it's always the Lib Dem when it comes to Brexit, claims to have PTSD because of our leaving the European Union. I mean, if that's a thing, I want to claim early onset PTSD for living under Keir Starmer at the moment, you know?
Absolutely.
But this takes this whole Brexit derangement symptom to the next level. And you just know this is the same sort of woman who wears a COVID mask driving alone in her car. It's that sort of person you can just imagine. And you can sort of see her in the psychiatrist's office on the couch with her latest nightmare of Farage.
Her name is apparently Antonia Harrison.
That's right, and she claims to have been physically affected by Brexit.
There she is with Ed Davey. I mean, that would give you PTSD for a start, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
She's lost from that. She's lost her voice repeatedly because of Brexit.
Oh, yeah.
And she blames us all on trauma, you know, and trauma is the most overused and abused word. And I think it's an insult to the genuine sufferers of PTSD. People who've been in war, horrific abuse, been in accidents. You don't get PTSD because your country left a corrupt bureaucracy. I hate to break it to you.
Well, I mean, Alex is the expert here. I mean, you sat in the European Parliament.
Oh, my gosh.
You were elected.
The Lib Dems were
you were elected to sit there. What were the Lib Dems? What were they like
They
there?
were nuts. But the thing is, most of the people who ended up as MEPs for the Lib Dems, you wouldn't give a job, babysitting your dog.
Right.
Absolutely useless.
Not even a non-binary, gender fluid dog.
Not even that sausage thing, whatever it was, with no nuts. But, seriously, they're absolutely useless. These people, and they sit in that parliament and they would get so much money that I can understand them getting PTSD because you go from chauffeur-driven car and red carpets and 15 grand a month tax-free. But this woman, I mean, I'd actually say it's a Brexit dividend if she's lost her voice. Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, she says that she feels as if she's been stripped of her European identity. I'm terribly breaking news. The EU is not Europe.
No.
Right.
Switzerland's not in the EU. I'm pretty sure that they're still European.
We had last night the proms this week, which usually makes it onto the show, but I think it's so boring now that it never does. With all these wallies waving European flags around.
6,000 flags or something.
6,000 EU flags. There was a guy outside with an EU cake.
Yeah.
That idiot Steve Bray was there.
Of course.
And they're all running around as if, somehow we've left a country and we've suddenly set off on our own. As if, we are now no longer able to govern ourselves and that, there was no history ever in Britain. And before 1973, Europe wasn't a thing.
And I hate to be a cynic here, but is there a benefits angle here, do you think? Has she now said, well, my PTSD now necessitates that I can't work and therefore I'm going to be one of the million that's off with anxiety and give me some benefits,
She's
please?
most upset, isn't she, that she can't retire to Spain where she has a house near Marbella. I think this is part of her argument, was that she's just so distraught because she can't have the retirement in Spain that she wanted.
Well, she can, actually. Yeah. I mean, you can retire in Spain. You just have to go there and declare that you're going to, buy some property and you're allowed to get a residency status and residency.
I'm quite happy to buy her a one-way ticket.
Yeah. Maybe I should crowdfund it.
Yes.
It's only 40 quid on EasyJet.
Seriously, I'll pay for it.
Yeah,
Done.
not a problem.
Bye.
But these people are insane, aren't they?
But she's an elected official. I'm sorry, if you're going into politics and you can't take something, you get PTSD for something like that, I think you should be sitting at home in a darkened room rather than actually engaging with the public.
Right. Maybe she sends it to Cambridgeshire, where they seem to have a few problems with their council. Maybe she could sort it all out for them. Absolutely unbelievable. Well, listen, we're nearly at the end. I've got to decide who's going to win. But also, we're talking about Lib Dems, they had their conference this week, so we're going to make a little reference to that. And you won't want to miss this. It's Ed Davey on stage singing. Coming up next on Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. So, we're into conference season, ladies and gentlemen, and the first conference, well, not really the first, because the SNP had their conference, which was pretty laughable.
Which no one noticed.
Nobody really noticed, because the SNP have now gone back to what they used to be like before they were in power in Scotland. So, there's just a few people in sort of strange-looking woolly jumpers and a few deranged-looking people in kilts, talking about, fighting our freedom, finding our freedom, and all that sort of rubbish, right? So, we had the Lib Dems in Brighton this week. Who have got the most MPs, I think, in their history, certainly for this century, if not for longer. 72 MPs they've now got. And Ed Davey, who seemed to spend the entire electoral campaign just doing stunts, falling off paddle boards, going on roller coasters, falling into the sea. He arrived, as you might expect, in a non-conventional way. Have a look at this.
riding high in our region. Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey arrived at his conference in Brighton by jet ski, accompanied by some of his new MPs, including South Cambridge's Pippa Heylings.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Aren't they petrol-driven, those things?
Yeah,
They're
well,
not
carbon
environmentally
footprint.
friendly, are they?
Yeah.
I hate
Hypocrites.
him. I really hate him.
He is an idiot, isn't he?
I hate him because this blimmin' infantilisation of politics. He did nothing but gad about like he is in Takeshi's Castle for 2 months. The BBC thought it was all jolly hockey sticks and wonderful.
Yeah.
A load of sado women like that one who's got PTSD went out and voted for him because he's probably got a crush on him because they haven't had any sort of leg over for the last 20 years. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's got 72 seats.
So
and no one even knows what he stands for.
If the bar for British politics is kind of right down here, Ed Davey has just dropped it down another notch.
Right. He is literally in charge of a party with almost as many MPs as the Tories, though, and ridiculously more than Reform, who actually got more votes than
I
the
know
Lib
it
Dems
doesn't
got.
matter because they're the Lib Dems. They are the ultimate protest party.
Yeah.
But they haven't for months and months, it seems, ever talked about, policy, vision, what they would do to the country. It's all been roller coasters and jet
No,
skis.
well, talking about the PTSD Brexit woman, I mean, one of their big actual, you would have thought, policies would be going into an election saying, actually, if you vote for the Lib Dems, we would rejoin the European Union, because that's what they keep talking about. But did they mention it during the election campaign? No.
They were too busy.
They decided deliberately not to mention it in case it was a bit divisive. And you go, well, if you were the one party in Britain, I mean, I don't really want to rejoin the European Union. I will rephrase that. I don't want to rejoin the European Union. But some people do, and if there was a party that represented those people, surely they would vote for it, and that would be fine.
Right?
That would be democracy.
Our useless, boneheaded, feckless, lazy legacy media.
Yeah.
If it's any other party, they'd be like, what are these absolute nutjob morons doing? You're making the country look like a gaggle of bozos. Get off your jet ski. Get out that swimming pool. You absolute tit. Tell us what your policies are. But they don't. They cheer it on like it's magical.
I've got some good news for you, because right at the end of their conference, they told us what they were all about. Have a look at this.
This is free. Take a chance on me. Leave me.
Oh my God.
You got no place to go.
Seriously.
I mean...
Take a chance on me? No,
Take
thanks.
a chance on me
No,
by ABBA, right?
let's not.
Now, the people that were standing behind him were the 72 elected Labour MPs. And apparently, I was reading a really funny sketch in the Times about this, because obviously everyone was up there covering it. And they actually practiced that. They actually got all the MPs out.
That was not the first time.
That was not the first time. Got them all to sit, make sure they knew exactly where they were supposed to be sitting, so that when they did come out to sit there, they all sat next to they actually said to them, just remember who you're supposed to be sitting next to. And all of these 72 MPs, who are not very, shall we say, diverse. They're all sort of look like white, middle-aged, mad people, right? Let's have another look at it, because he comes out, and I don't know if he knows his microphone's actually on, and he starts singing, and he can't sing.
No. He sounds like he's been strangled.
Do you know what I see there? That is voting for a collective midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Look at those
Look at the state of them.
sad vegans. Look at the... I hate them.
I know. I love that you hate them. I think it's brilliant. It's actually really cheered me up no end. and apparently, this is... We don't actually have it, unfortunately, on film, but apparently, according to the sketch writer, they got to about the third verse, and everybody just kind of stopped and looked at each other and kind of went, that was a bit weird.
Weird. And they hadn't practiced the...
Because they didn't know all the words.
Yeah.
I mean, how embarrassing, though.
I know. Why do that?
I mean, this is a guy who said, and in his speech, he said that the one thing that he cares about is the carers of the country, because, of course, he's talked about his disabled son. Fair enough. But he said, because I now get time to question the Prime Minister, because I get a question every week on Prime Minister's Questions, I'm going to continue to hold their feet to the fire about caring. Well, nobody cares. I'm sorry.
No. What sort of question is he going to ask, Keir Starmer, do you think? What's the best roller coaster you've ever been on?
Yeah. Have you seen that great video of me singing Take a Chance on Me? And also, Take a Chance on Me is it's a kind of a weird song, isn't it, for him to sing?
Yeah. Well, the answer's definitely no.
I've got it's a no from me.
I've got something else to add.
Go on. Do you hate him?
I hate
That is incredible. Absolutely brilliant. I'll tell you what we've got. This is actually very unusually for this show. We've put together a little montage of all of Ed Davey's little
his exploits,
faux pas. So let's have a look at this.
To paraphrase
Ed
something
Davey
from
watch.
that great show Succession, they're just not a serious party.
They're really not. No, they're really not. And also, you know, there was one of those clips in there where he's on the paddleboard. You can see that he's jumping into the water. He's not just falling in, like, you know, maybe they'll capture this and it might make a funny picture.
Yeah.
He was literally deliberately throwing himself into water by the end of the campaign.
Well, he did it about 50 times for one photo shoot.
Yeah. All right, and all the media, as you say, were just lapping it up because they didn't have to ask any difficult questions or feel in any way awkward. They could all just laugh and sing and go, "Oh, this is great fun, isn't it?" Just shocking.
Believable.
She hates him. In case anybody doesn't know, Alex Phillips hates Ed Davey.
And all Lib Dem.
It may well be.
All of them.
It may be a thought crime. I don't know. There could be people waiting to arrest you outside after that. Yeah. I tell you what, I've swung towards Alex. I'm going to go with Ed Davey.
Alex.
Ed Davey, plank of the week. I'm sure next week we'll be getting David Lammy back up again. You might even get Ed Davey back up again, but he hasn't won it for a while. So in the interest,
back into obscurity.
in the interest of generosity and democracy, Ed Davey, plank of the week. Well done. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to Russell. Thanks to Rebecca. Thanks to Rafe. Well done, everybody. We'll see you at the same time next week. This is plank of the week.